every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat. The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat. Every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. KFM's Hot Seat. Only on 933 KFM.
Hello, Uganda. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat on 933 KFM. I welcome you, our listeners, across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Amara. Tonight we focus on two things. The cabinet that was, we saw the cabinet reshuffle. How can we call it a mini cabinet reshuffle? New faces have joined. Old ones, some of them have been shown exit. And others, there's been realignment within the cabinet. What does that mean? Because my guest this evening, I have a policy analyst, a lawyer, a teacher at the law school, and also from the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, Mr. Godbert Mushabe. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Great pleasure to be here. Patrick, good evening, our listeners.
We have a political scientist who has actually actively been involved in politics, behind the scenes, with a lot of de facto power, I should say. Senior Presidential Advisor, Mr. Moses Biarhanga, is joining us online. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Patrick. Good evening, Godba, and our listeners out there. I'm not active in politics, Patrick.
Well, I think you are in some way. I think you are a political strategist of the highest order in this town.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, take the compliments, Moses.
That one I know. At least I can defend on that. But we are honored to have you. I understand you're actually making your way. So in the meantime, we can have you online.
So thanks to my Entebbe, but I'll still be there.
And you know Entebbe, plot one Entebbe. Okay, so Senior Presidential Advisor is on his way to here, and Godbert Mushabe from GLIS. We are missing in action Professor Jared Karieja. And my producer will be trying to get
Moses may be scared of getting here because he has to explain why I was not on that list.
You are supposed to be on that list, eh?
No, with me sitting with him here every other evening. I imagine
this should be the benefits. Eh?
Absolutely. So really? the man has to come in and explain why.
One of us really, Moses. Put the name, eh? We can also serve our country. We are very patriotic.
You know,
we have what it takes. Really, even so and so is there. Wow. So
we are still starting you.
Okay.
Okay. So you see now, good boy, you need to make some charm offensive.
You know,
you have to do your charm.
Yeah.
So, but good boy, I have seen. What do you make of this reshuffle? I want to say, in my view, all these other people are what in Uganda would call them perikezi, and the real deal was General Muhoozi getting on the CDF. The rest. For me, is what I would call empirically.
No, I agree with you. The rest are just footnotes because, first of all, I think the president was even very clear. Ugandans like the word reshuffle. And I don't even think that many Ugandans don't know what a reshuffle, a cabinet reshuffle means. So the president was very clear in his communication. He said he had made minor adjustments in his cabinet. And I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
A cabinet reshuffle is something very significant in the sense that when there is a cabinet reshuffle, it means that you are actually signaling a shift in government policy, in public policy. So in other words, you're bringing new ministers with a new posture, with new qualities and new mindsets, because you want them to shift the policy of government, the direction of government.
And you want to say this is new quality, it's not new mindset?
No, because you see who were brought in. I think
General Badi. Dr. Mona.
Yeah, but you see,
General
Badi was put in the Minister of Trade, and I think he's the State Minister for Trade. I mean, so if you're a deputy minister, you have no consequence for all intents and purposes. You are there to help with the senior minister. So if I wanted to change the trade policy of government of Uganda and I wanted a new direction, I'm going to be reshuffling the cabinet minister, the senior minister, and I'll bring in Kamara. And when you look at Kamara's profile, Kamara's background, Kamara's accomplishments, the people who are policy analysts like some of us will be able to look at Kamara and say, oh, the government, the president wants Uganda's trade policy to shift in this direction. Now, when you look at the people who were brought in the cabinet, they were all assistant ministers. So that's why I'm saying they are footnotes. They have no consequence at all. That's why I agree with the president. He made minor adjustments in his cabinet by bringing in these few people. I think he needed to do it to be able to appoint his son in his position as CDF, but the rest are really footnotes. They have no consequence.
Be fair also. Be kind.
Kind to, in terms of what? Because that's the reality. Because if you ask me, we can say, okay, let's look, because this is mid-term of Museveni's government. If you think of the second half of the government, if you were to look at the end, what will have shifted? Is it General Mbadi? Is it Baram? Is it Fiona who are going to change direction? Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, these are good people.
Should there be a change of direction anyway? Should there be a change of direction?
You have to ask the president, why is he doing these adjustments? What does he want? Because
somebody closer to the president than the two of us is senior presidential advisor, Mr. Moses Biarhanda.
No, I mean, Patrick, the people who are put there, some of them are decent people. They are good Ugandans. They can do something. But you go there and work like everybody else, because that's how the government runs these days.
That's the interpretation. That's the feeling, Moses, from people like Godber.
Yeah.
Your take about that?
First of all, it's agree with Godfrey that the shuffle of cabinet means you want to change the election. Because the election of government it's not about individual ministers. It's about the president, the manifesto, and we also have the NDP, now three. That gives away the direction. So the ministers are implementers of that direction. The direction is already there. Whether it is today called as a minister of trade or tomorrow it is another minister, the implementation you can change here and there, but the direction will not change. In any case, the ministers don't just act on their own. They have the cabinet meeting every Monday, and but if it is need for extraordinary meeting, it can happen. That's why there's correct responsibility. Even when you are in your ministry, you bring out a cabinet paper, it is discussed, and everybody is free to give in an input. So what comes out is a consensus, and for you implementing a consensus. So it's not about your individuality. The individual, yes, you can be pushing here and there, but it's not about you. It's about all of us. And then meaning collective responsibility in the government. So these ministers of state have a role to play. Because if, for instance, like Dr. Mona is a minister for Northern Uganda, you're basically the minister for Northern Uganda. It's not exactly the minister of state. So you are there coordinating activities of government in Northern Uganda, for example, here and there. If you are like General Badi now, minister of state for trade, cannot say that one is inconsequential. In any case, even when the paper coming from the ministry is coming to the cabinet, the ministers now are three, the full minister, the Lombardi, and the Honorable Bahati. They will sit to the top, what they call top executive, agree on the paper. So it's not about the individual senior minister who leads everything. It is collective responsibility within that ministry, and the one who is representing it, if it is the minister in cabinet, he will be representing not only his or her view, but the views of the entire ministry and all the ministers involved. So it's not about that somebody, when you're Minister of State, you're inconsequential. You have a role to play. You have a electorate, maybe a commissioner under you who report to you directly. So you cannot put in inconsequential.
Okay, good, but I'm inclined to actually take Moses' view because there's a government that is elected on a certain manifesto. It has a mandate to lead, and they are given that mandate because of a certain manifesto.
You see that,
and that already is the direction.
No, look. You see, what Moses may be explaining what is obtaining in his government, which is okay. I am only saying, even when you have a manifesto, the different ministers will have different energy, they have different profiles, they have different demeanors in terms of how they move the different sectors. You'll have the government that we have now. Even if someone can say this ministry is doing better than the other one, than this one. So when you tell me that there is no the appointment is the appointment of these ministers should not be rated how they perform, you would ask yourself, the people who were repressed from trade, from Karamoja, from gender, does that mean that we are not performing? Why were they repressed?
Okay, Moses. Did you hear that, Moses?
I heard it.
Okay.
You see, the replacements, the president, when I was appointing cabinet, is addressing qualification. So when he's appointing cabinet, it doesn't mean that the one who has been removed is not an implementer. It is maybe the political question of the time is different, and that's why you address it. Doesn't mean that the one who has been removed is a non-performer. No, that would be wrong.
So the people who are removed, the two of them from Masabaland, the Honorable Kitutu and the Honorable Nandutu, their names also came up during the Mabate scandal.
That one is very clear. That could be the reason. But for the others,
that was the reason.
In a trade,
was that the reason?
Well, was saying it's very clear.
I wouldn't be surprised. But because the president had promised that some time back, and later he wrote, if you recall.
We don't recall.
So yes, but one would wonder also,
actually,
because the
other interesting one, the other interesting one, Patrick, is that for trade, General Mbadi, who is from Kasese, also replaced someone from Kasese. That I found really quite intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why would that be intriguing?
I mean, so I'm wondering, why was the other one replaced? Is it because he was an underperformer, or General Mbadi needed to be placed somewhere, and then so we had to take this one out and then bring General Mbadi?
Do you really think in this case the president is answering that question of allegations of corruption? You know, the Mamate scandal, these two women ministers, all of them from Masabaland, to be shown the exit?
I really don't think so. I think those are, as I said, those are really peripheral appointments. If you are dealing with the corruption in the Prime Minister's office, they are big people to shift. There is the Prime Minister, who was supposed to be the supervisor, who is the head of government. There is, I think we had some ministers from Ministry of Finance. Those are the people that probably would have been removed. If the president wanted to take political action, because as I've argued here time and again, when there are corruption scandals that we saw with the Mabati and with the money that was being pillaged from Parliament here, normally the first action of a president is a political action. But normally you hear him hiding behind the law, police investigation, and that kind of thing. So I would never relate the dropping of these ladies to the
Moses,
to the
you seem to suggest that the dropping of those ladies, perhaps in your view, it is even clear that would is likely to happen. But others will say, how about Honorable Ugolobi?
Well, the president had said in a letter, remember, that he would take political action. And my reading is that was the political action he promised to take on those people. You see, the other ones, I think for them, they were the recipients and the givers. Others, there was the recipients and the givers in the case of the Mabati. And other people failed it. So it said, first we go to Mabati, we have been getting Mabati before from Prime Minister's office. So not the first time. You remember the testimony they gave. And anybody should be able to believe them. But we didn't know where they were coming from, but they were coming from government. We used them for government activities.
Okay. Moses Biarahanga, who has eventually joined us here in the studio, and Godbetu Mushabe from GLIS. Gentlemen, we're going to take a mega milk break, and the hot seat will be right back.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight.
933
KFM's Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Godbetu Mushabe from the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies and Moses Biarahanga, Senior Presidential Advisor. He's been trotting the globe, and we're happy to have you back, Moses. The last time we checked, you all over the world. And
thank you, Patrick.
I like the way you don't come back with some Yankee accent. Sometimes people go there for it.
Just Godba. Godba will come to America speaking American English.
Yeah, but I'm still church school. I mean, I spent 4 years in California. I came back with my church school English.
Godba. So, what do you read in the names of the Honorable Fiona Nyamutoro, now Honorable Balam Barugahare, and Lilian Aber? These were really strong supporters of the Patriotic League Uganda. They have always been heading all the activities of PLU. And it seems to be the president as if he was rewarding them for PLU. How come?
First of all, maybe at the personal, but I think personally, I don't think that being a cabinet minister in Museveni's government is being rewarded, because what's the big deal about it? So if you're a cabinet minister, so what? What is it that you do?
I don't know whether you see a connection between Patriotic League Uganda, that is headed by General Muhoozi, and his lieutenants, who seem to have eaten big in this reshuffle.
You see, I have said here time and again that as far as I'm concerned, there is no difference between Museveni and his son Muhoozi and the things that they do. And even if Muhoozi was doing Perau as and independently as something that he thinks gives him value and is able to mobilize all the cheerleaders that go around him, it is Museveni who has the control on what direction any of these things can take. I think that Museveni has been able to build a profile and retain a certain level of control that he can decide to let Pirau go, and if he wants to stop it, he can stop it. And so you see, even if Pirau was
so Plau is what?
No, is it PRU?
You know something Plau in this era of
Patrick, the truth is that group was mainly moving around, organizing young people, preparing rice and meat and eating and celebrating. So it's a Pirau party. So, but the point I was trying to make is that if the group was continuing to work, and you are President Museveni and you know the way he does his politics, it serves a very, very clear purpose for him. First of all, it is trying, Muhoozi and his people are saying we are mobilizing the youth. Part of his problem right now has been how to mobilize youth. That's why he has this whole narrative about Bazukuru and the investments that he makes. So if the Pirau group is moving and they are mobilizing the youth, that's a plus for him. Secondly, if he wants to deal with where are my biggest weaknesses? Pirao becomes a flagship, a force flag operation to be able to identify areas where he's weak, but also identify where people who are loyal to him. Because you see, if I was a father and I see you are strongly opposed to my son, I'm going to doubt whether you are actually loyal to me. So in other words, Pirao is a very good force flag operation for him. So even if it was continuing, it can continue until he thinks that it poses a danger for his life presidency project. Now, I could argue and say maybe he reached the point where he thought that Pirao has served its purpose, and now he has decided to demobilize it and bring everybody into the fold. The people that were appointed, they were the biggest. I think Baramu and Lilian Abe were the biggest cheerleaders of Pirao. I actually consider Lilian is a good friend of mine, but I consider her to be one of the most indisciplined leaders, because I have still argued and say you can't be a member of parliament. You are educated to the level of Lilian Aberos and others. You went to that parliament and held that constitution and sought to protect it and defend it, and then you are running around a serving army officer campaigning for him to be president. I mean, you have to be you have to have a certain your level of appreciation of the things that you are supposed to be doing must be really at the lowest ebb for you to be able to do it. Because I think sometimes you feel like Ugandan leaders, it's like they have no respect for themselves in terms of the positions which they hold. Because when you're an MP, bwana. You can't just go playing around like a little child there, running around.
That's your friend you're talking about.
Eh?
Okay.
No, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Lilian just as an individual, because there are many of them. There are many of them. There are many MPs that are running around. They are Pirao. They know that the gentleman they are supporting is breaking the law, violating the constitution of Uganda deliberated, and of course one of the disturbing things that we as Ugandans, we can't ask questions, we can't put them to task. Everybody seems like it's okay, so you end up having a country that is degenerating into a state of lawlessness.
Let me bring in Moses. You see, the thought and the line of thought from Godba is a line of thought I've also heard somewhere, that it looks like people who were in the movement of MK movement have benefited more than actually people have been doing the real movement mobilization for the party. How do you appreciate this?
Well, it's true. Those some of the members appointed in cabinet have been working closely with General Muhoozi. But I say General Muhoozi has until he takes over office of Chief of the Defense Forces, has been a senior presidential advisor. There's nothing he did which was in breach of the Constitution. As senior presidential advisor, he could meet anybody, he could address anybody on behalf of the president. So what Godeba is saying, breach of the Constitution, I disagree with him. The other army serving officers who are political appointments, like now General Mbadi as the Minister of State for Trade, General Katumba as the Minister for Works, General Jejo Longo retired. You have General Muhoozi, David, who is the Minister of State for Internal Affairs. They can address rallies on behalf of government. The law...
On behalf of government, the political rallies or what?
Any rally, whether political or otherwise.
Campaign rallies?
Not campaign rallies, political rallies. See, General has not been campaigning. He has been telling you, he has been mobilizing youth.
There have also been some campaign paraphernalia your next president 2026. It's everywhere, Moses.
Well, for me, as far as I'm concerned, first of all, the law which he's talking about only forbids army people or personnel, not only officers, even non-officers, from taking partisan politics. It does not stop them from being active in politics, because you have members of parliament who are the members of UPDF who represent the army in parliament. Parliament is a political institution. They participate in making the laws. They can go and explain the laws. So you cannot say this, but what they don't do is to take partisan sides.
I think the biggest issue here is to aspire for the number one job in the land.
I don't think General Moses is aspiring for number one job in the land. Not to my knowledge. Maybe you have a different view.
No, you have limited knowledge.
Well, it is limited, but let's wait for 2026. Let's pray to God we will be here, and we'll see how the ballots will look like.
Because there have been a lot of some kind of campaign paraphernalia, leaflets and literature.
People say so many things about themselves, about others.
You think if the way people have said the same, if they said it for example General Mbadi, he would survive in that office?
For me, to the best
if it was any other military office?
To the best of my knowledge, General Moses now is CDF. He's going to do his work as CDF. As far as the politics of 2026 are concerned, we shall have presidential candidates. I don't see General Moses as one of them.
Okay, but the issue of them, the Honorable Barugahari, the Honorable Nyamutoro, and Honorable Aber,
Lydian Aber,
joining, is that like rewarding the people who have been in the MK movement?
Sure, yeah, it is, because as I said, they have been mobilized. They will continue, I'm sure. That's why, to the best of my own analysis, is that's why Balaam is the Minister of Youth Affairs. It continue with the mobilization of the youth. The others are serving in different capacities, but as I said, you see, at the end of the day, cabinet implements collective decisions, which are reached at in cabinet. And unlike in the past, where ministers of state will not sit in cabinet, in the past government, here all ministers sit in cabinet, and everybody is entitled to make a contribution as long as you have it. You cannot say because your minister has contributed on this matter, you cannot contribute. Supposing there's a matter on health, and a minister of energy makes a contribution, that doesn't stop a minister of state for energy also to make a contribution on the matter which is to do with health. So it is collective responsibility. So at the end of the day, what comes out of cabinet is something agreed upon through consensus by everybody. So when they are there, they make a contribution to the running of the government. So it's not only about your department or your ministry. When you are in cabinet, you are talking about the entire government, because different ministries present different papers on their ministries. But you, as a person sitting in cabinet, you are entitled to make a contribution. And at the end of the day, if your contribution is bought by the majority, then it is taken and as part of the outcome of the cabinet. So then that's why even we go to Parliament and take collective responsibility. At the individual ministry level, yes, you are in charge of your sector or section, but at the end of the day, you are running a government together with everybody else in cabinet.
Moses Biarhang and Godiba Tumushabe, gentlemen, we're going to take a break and mega milk break, and the hot seat will be right back.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues.
933 KFM.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
Back, gentlemen, we're back on air. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight, Senior Presidential Advisor Moses Biarhanga, and we have Godiba Tumushabe from the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies. You've listened to Godiba before we took a break. I could imagine you had something you wanted to respond to.
To Moses.
You listened to Moses, you Godiba, and I could think you had. I thought you had an issue you wanted to raise, and at the end of the day, you seem to suggest that it doesn't make any change. It doesn't add any value.
My point that, and Moses is actually, even the way he explains, it's almost is almost making my point in a different way. That in the Museveni's cabinet, his government right now, it's an omnibus. So in other words, if you are there, you are basically from a policy perspective where I come from, I should look at your cabinet, who are your ministers. If I want to know the policy direction of government, and the policy direction, by the way, is not just what is written in the manifesto. What is written in the manifesto are the foundations, but how these are implemented in terms of timelines, in terms of nuances. If it is health, the focus you give to the implementation of the health agenda as articulated in the NRM manifesto or whichever party is in power is going to be determined by the quality of the minister, the profile of that minister. You can have a minister of health who could be very well, well educated, accomplished, but this minister has no capacity to organize and lobby his colleagues to be able to get an allocation in the budget. So I will look at the cabinet and look at the ministers and their profiles and their backgrounds, and I can clearly determine with certainty this is the direction that the government is taking. So the ones that we have now, first of all, the cabinet, as I've already said, this is it. This is such a big cabinet. You can see even if you have seen pictures of the cabinets when they are meeting, you have the ministers seated like school children, and the president there with his softboard teaching them. Cabinet meetings are supposed to be like boardroom style. You sit because you are all equal. You sit, you discuss, you make decisions. So that sitting alone on how you've sat your meeting is important. It's not just optics. You can sit people in a way that they become completely patronized.
Yeah, but see, let me correct you. You see,
maybe give your opinion.
You see, I no correct you.
No, you
on Saturday, you listen. Yeah. You see, on the sitting, for instance, we have always had a cabinet rooms. There's a cabinet room at Parliament here on the President's office on the 5th floor now. We have a cabinet room at State House in Entebbe. Since after COVID, when the issues of sitting, giving yourself distances came, that's when the President started holding cabinet meetings in a tent. There's a structure talking about which appear like a classroom. It is a result of
that's misleading.
No. Because I'm telling you the truth.
No, I know.
So this cabinet room at Parliament, was it designed for 80 plus members of the cabinet?
I'm talking about this as from before COVID.
See, the cabinet before COVID, cabinet meetings would take place in a cabinet room at State House, not in the sitting you're talking about. That's a fact.
Okay.
You can't go against it.
I'll give you the fact.
That's a fact. Before COVID, cabinet meetings would take place in a cabinet room at State House, not in a tent. But the tent started during and after COVID. You see, on the elections and so forth, I've already given my opinion. As I said, at the end of the day, a minister gives leadership to the civil service in a ministry, and both in the ministry and in Parliament. When a ministry is being represented in Parliament, at the same time, the decisions of the ministry are agreed upon not because of the minister, but to be collectively. So within the ministry itself, you have the commissioners, the heads of administration, heads of departments. It's a collective. It's even a minister alone. Then when you go to cabinet, it's also collective, because everybody is fit to contribute to your paper and enrich it, or remove certain things, and make sure that at the end of the day we are working together. So, and the most of the direction is also given by the president, because that's why the president is elected. He helps in the ministries shaping the way forward. Sometimes the ministries can meet with the president without being the cabinet, but the president can have a meeting on a matter. Most of the meetings are around, and the president gives guidance to his ministers, or sometimes it is in writing. So there are many ways of working within government. Sometimes it is cabinet meetings, sometimes it is individual ministries meeting with the president, sometimes it is the president writing to them as ministers and giving them guidance.
But what do you make of the fact that the president now is more inclined to bring in soldiers in the cabinet? And these are not just soldiers. We have now 3 former chief of defense forces in the cabinet. General Kawamara, General Mbadi, General Muhoozi, but also there are other major generals, including now Kano and retired Time, Rwamirama, and all these kind of people. What do you read in this? But remember also we had the former chief CDF Aronda, the late Aronda.
Museveni is a military ruler. He has never changed. He only changed in 2005 for convenience, because he needed to move from he needed to amend the constitution and change and remove term limits, and the only way he could do it was to basically say, now I'm moving from being a military ruler to a civilian ruler. You remember that time he changed almost everything. But
if confusing issues,
what
2005?
2005, that was the removal of age limit. That was term limit. Sorry, that's when his tenure was supposed to have ended in 2005.
And that's why he changed from what?
He changed it from, basically he retired from the army.
He retired from them in 95 before 96 elections.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not 2005.
Yeah, maybe that's an error, but let me just say, right from 2000 and actually 1996, he retired from the army. He started putting on 95. So he started putting on civilian clothes. If you go back and look for all his photos for public events, you would see him in civilian clothes. Right from 1990, around 2006. Then he started now taking back to the military fatigue. I think right now it's very rare to see Museveni if he's not putting in his very fancy shirts, he must be putting on military fatigue almost all the time. He puts on military fatigue when he's meeting with even sometimes he has brought them in parliament. He meets diplomats with them. So for him, in his mental programming, he's a soldier, and I think he understands that with soldiers you can actually control them. So I would not be surprised if in his mental programming he believes that you need to staff the parliament with a cabinet with soldiers, because at the end of the day, you are a soldier, whether retired or not.
But also, let's face it, some of these individuals have acted very well for the country. The later on, Nyakairima did well.
No, these are fine. These are fine ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake. These are fine ladies and gentlemen. But you see, if the Constitution says serving army officers should not be in politics, you have to be a regime that doesn't respect the law, that will try to manipulate the law to make sure that is not respected. So there is no reason why President Museveni cannot allow these officers to retire and they are appointed in the cabinet.
That settled in court when Arunda was appointed? Because I remember.
You see, that's how all this is done. Because if you want a decision in court, you can get it, can't you? Because if you want it in parliament, you can get it.
Now, yeah? If that was settled, if that issue was settled in court,
I'm saying so. It was settled, but is that what you want? The people who put there the constitution and put the rules, are you saying that they were not thinking anything? So but we can rationalize. Let me finish. This regime has perfected rationalizing irregularities, including using the courts, and that does not make those irregularities right. That's why we normally say that rather than the rule of law, the NRM regime rules the country according to rule by law. So in other words, if the law stops you from doing something, just change it, because this is what you want to do. So the rationalization, I can hear you, people like Moses will try to explain to you why it is legal, why it is okay, but that does not change the fact that there are reasons why those rules were put in place.
You see, Godba, I think, well, you have your own interpretation, but I have read also about American politics. If you read a book on the biography of the late General Colin Powell, while General Colin Powell was a serving military officer. He worked at State Department, at the Ministry of Defense headquarters, and at White House. Now, whether that is political or not, I don't understand. Maybe some of the rules apply to Uganda, but when it comes to other countries, they don't apply. And many other military officers in the U.S. government have served in other government capacities. That's a fact. But when it comes to Uganda, then the Godbars make mention of everything. This is illegal, you're militarizing the civil service. Now, was the late Colin Powell, at the time he was serving in the non-military capacities, but within the government, was that militarization of the U.S. government at that time? I don't know. But anyway, some people here just think through their own side what fits them, and then that's what they try to propel. So in other countries, military officers serve. If you in what you would rather call civilian capacities in government, like here you have the Major General in charge of immigration, General Kasita Goa. It happens everywhere in the world. It's not the first one. In fact, General Swaskov, the father of the one who was the commander in Iran, in Iraq War, served in immigration, I think somewhere in America. If you read about it, I also read about the biography of Swaskov. Yeah. So.
But Moses.
No, but it's a fact. See, there is a book I've referred you. I'm referring you to. You read the biography of General Colin Powell.
But I can also tell you that even now.
Died. So he served.
Absolutely.
At different offices. Because at White House?
Even us now. Even us now in Uganda.
Hey.
You go to any of our missions abroad, you'll find them military attaches.
No,
they are in the foreign service, and they are serving a particular purpose because they are military officers. So you can't confuse all these things.
I'm not confusing you. I'm confusing you.
Hold on to your point, gentlemen.
They serve in immigration in many other places. So I don't know why it
guys.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. The Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. You know, gentlemen, in the last 10 minutes that we have, let us look on the other side of the aisle and not NRM. Really, there seems to be people who are calling themselves the forces of change are almost in disarray. You see, the change of the leader of opposition has left now Uganda's biggest opposition party, NUP, in fractured, if you may. If you listen to what the Honorable Mpuga said in the letter after he was dropped from the leader of opposition, that he had suffered such intrigue that people of his own members were paying bloggers to abuse him, that he cannot stand, that everybody knows the kind of harassment he has suffered. He actually even talks about of family interests running into the politics. Those are his words, and that is his letter. You know, goodbye. I seem to see as if they have not even understood the political opponent they have. Instead of focusing their effort on a government that they want to remove, they are busy focusing on removing themselves. What is this?
Yeah, I still believe that the discussions on our political discourse is completely distorted by the failure to understand that we are in a military dictatorship. The real government in this country is the military, and I think if there's anybody who understands that, it is President Museveni, because he knows. He runs the military government. The army and the intelligence are the ones who are running the real operations of government. All these politicians, really, I don't think that Museveni is bothered about them. I think he engages with them, make sure they get some money so they don't disturb him. But I think he knows that at the end of the day, when the time comes, he has to rely on the military and intelligence. It is the military and intelligence that will normally be deployed to disorganize these political parties. So if you are talking about NUP and all the others, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I even congratulate these groups that are there in the current environment in which they are operating, where state resources from money, security, intelligence, they are all deployed to disorganize you. You have to congratulate these opposition political
you
parties.
have a leader of opposition who is on record saying 2 years and a half he has suffered harassment from his own members.
Nobody,
2 years and a half, his own members have hired bloggers to abuse him.
But the leader of opposition is not a child. I mean, if you think this is not a no-brainer,
how do you take that one to any other military man?
He can be able to resign and leave the thing, because why is he there 2 years being harassed for what? It means that your fate is tied to this group called NUP. So if that's what you have, then stay there, stop making a noise, because as far as I'm concerned, these groups, all of them, there are lots of resources, of state resources that are invested to disorganize them. If Ugandans think that NUP is going to be there and it is going to organize as an organization and go and campaign across the country, you know, you've seen how they use the security agencies to stop people like Bobby Wine, like Chiza Besigye, to go and campaign and mobilize across the country when all the NRM people do. So I think we need to stop being we need to stop being naive and stop complaining against these political leaders who are suffering the brunt of the regime. And then we are there, they are not organized, they are not what. I think the media and the elite in this country, we are just a disgrace, because we are failing to understand that those people like Bobby Wine and Besigye and others are actually more or less like shouldering the burden of cushioning us against a very, very vicious military dictatorship.
They have thrown their
yeah, absolutely, yeah, because the harassment they go through, the harassment they go through.
I can imagine, Moses. They say when your enemies are making mistakes, you just don't interrupt. They continue. You don't disrupt them. They continue making their mistakes.
When I hear Godba saying that this is a military dictatorship, I think he's entitled to his opinion.
Yeah.
I can't speak for him, but it's a good thing that listeners are out there. A military dictatorship, where we are on radio calling government that, and then you go and do what we want to do as Godba. If it was a military dictatorship, Godba, of what you say about this government,
I hope I'll get the opportunity to respond to that. Because I can explain.
What you say about this government, if it was a military dictatorship, you would not be saying it here. One. Two, even the radio will not even entertain it. But it is the freedom of speech. You come here, you abuse, you say anything you want to say.
Abuse how?
And then you say this is dictatorship.
Abuse where?
Those people, now, the people in those parties have their own internal issues, but now you're putting it on the government. You have to find a way of bringing in NRM. It is NRM,
because I
this
know.
And this. You see, what you know, you also know. Mpuga is an adult, an old man. I think he's a lawyer by training, if I'm not mistaken. He has been in parliament, I think this is the second or third term. So he's a seasoned politician. By the time he can distinguish if the harassment is coming from state agencies or from his own party. He has gone publicly and said harassment from his own party. But for you have to share with that and say, no. It is the government which is doing all this. Really, people out there know. They know what's happening. Even Puka is himself listening to you to say, but who is this Godba man? I think the issue has been within NUP, if I look at it, I think the issue has been sharing of power. Mpuga was the leader of opposition. That is the highest office of a party leader in government structure in parliament. He was removed, and he has been since then. The relations between him and the other members of NUP have not been good, and the others have come out to criticize him. Others with him. So when you come and now put this on the government, really, FDC has been having FDC Katonga, FDC Rajanankumbi. Now you don't know whether the Katonga they are saying they are going to make consultations, if I read correctly, whether to form another party or not. And now you say that is the military dictatorship doing that. They are failing their own leadership. They are failing their own leadership. In any case, you're talking about military people. I don't think FDC is short of them, because the Bessie himself, his background includes military, among others. He's also a doctor, but human medicine medical doctor, but also an army person, retired army colonel. And there are many others within that party who have been serving in this contribution, Kanamanyam Shega and others. But that does not mean, you see, the military people also have a role to play in the history and politics of Uganda. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. They are part of Ugandan society. You hear making criticism that, President Museveni, you see, our history is in such a way that the military played a very big role in liberating this country. Even after the takeover in 1986, the continued insurgency in the country, they played a very big role. But when it comes to politics, you get out of it. It's not for you. But that's why they're in parliament. It was deliberate. That's why we were in the CA. Message was in the CA, if you remember. Now, are you going to say, this constitution of Uganda, some people who made it were soldiers like Besigye, like General Tijefu, now General Sejusa were in parliament, but now they're opposing the government. But they could make a contribution in the CA as military officers, but now everything military is bad.
Okay.
According to Godub.
No, that is according to Moses.
You're cutting short, and then I come back to Moses.
That's according to Moses.
You're cutting short.
Because Moses is laying facts of his own and saying good by saying this is bad. Mm-hmm. Because I know very well that the military has made a contribution in this country. I know that we have made every effort to organize how we run as a country, but I also know what elements within the military do to be able to disrupt political activities in the country. So when Moses talks about, when I talk about the military dictatorship, for me what I mean here, you forget about these things of talking around, because they are even in many other dictatorships people talk. I'm talking about you have a military go to Kasese, conduct an operation, kill people, and there is no accountability. You had the military here raid the High Court to arrest people who had been given bail by the High Court, and there is no accountability. You had the military here go on the streets, shoot people, there is no accountability. You have the military here holding people in prisons there without bail. People who have been held by the military for 3 years. So I don't want Moses and others to underplay and say, you come on radio, you talk, and you go home. That's you see, and some of these people will reach a point when they are relatives of people they know they get affected the way others get affected. Then they will know. They will get to understand what we mean when we say this is a military dictatorship, because the military is the one which is in charge. And you can go on and see how they engage in elections, how they you've seen in some of the actions they have in eastern Uganda. Those have been open cases where military generals are the ones who are conducting elections and helping the rigging. And in as much as it may not be the institution of the UPDF, we know that the elements within the UPDF, but more importantly, in the intelligence agencies, they are the ones who basically run the show and undermine the freedoms and the liberty of Ugandans, and we just have to call that out. There is nothing to fear about it.
Moses, very, very briefly, a parting shot.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, one of our principles under NRM is democracy. We continue building democracy. And in the building of that democracy, the military in Uganda still have a role to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses Biaranga, Senior Presidential Advisor. Thank you, Godub Mushabe from the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, and most of all, you, the listener, I want to thank you for the privilege of your company. Good night and God bless Uganda.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.